Sup, guys. Ryu here for the Yugioh Council. You guys asked for Mermail Frog, aka Treatoad Frog, Mermails, because that's a thing. You guys wanted my help with it. You wanted guiding your side on it, and I'm delivering tonight. There's also a request for a hero one, so the Hero Frog, this is going to give you some insight, but most likely I'll probably be doing that next week for sure. Just remind me, because I am pretty forgetful. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, before this video gets started, if you hear any bumps, boops, or beeps in the back, that is because we are in the reptile room. And the reptile room houses creatures that are reptiles. Just so we're clear here, and some of them are nocturnal. So they're actually up when I record this. Now, with all that said, let's get into it. If there is a deck that you need help with, put it in the comment section below, and I will make a guide to your side if need be for you. So let's get right into this without wasting any more time. Mermails are simple. They are pretty much OTK deck. They're not going to want you to play the game. And now with Treatoad, they have a way to lock you out and protect what they established. The longer this game goes on, the harder it is for the Mermail side. But because Treatoad totally is a thing, this makes their plays so much stronger. So we're going to focus on both sides of it, tell you how to get over the Toad, and tell you how to get over typical Mermails. So let's do this. Raigeki, you use this to bait your opponent. Or you use something else to bait the opponent, then you blow up their board with one card. Yes, the Treatoad will recycle itself back to the deck, but that's not a worry because Raigeki just takes it out and then it's off the board and you're able to establish dominance all over your opponent and control the game state. Now, this one should also go without saying, Stardust Dragon. While not nearly as good as Raigeki, it is another option because of the simple fact that Mermails want to pop everything, so that's why I bring it up. And then let's talk about the greatest card in existence. Kaijus. Use any kaiju to jump over Treatoad. Jumping over Treatoad followed by a Raigeki play is a beautiful yet disgusting combo wombo that could be done with a much more budget-friendly Dark Hole. If the Toad is your main problem, kaijus are your best friend. You can use any of the kaijus that are not going to mesh extremely well alongside Deep Sea Diva or anything else Mermails have. They're probably going to be using against you as well, so just keep that in mind. It's something you can use against them just as much. Exceed Encore. This card doesn't get enough love, and I don't get why. I mean, it's interesting to say the least. We're probably going to see more use out of this card when we get to Zodiacs than anything. It's a quick play spell card that allows you to pretty much snipe back and exceed into the extra deck, and I don't believe it can be chained on top to. And considering that if you do that to a totally awesome that is trying to activate its effect, I believe it would nullify it. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong because I am super uber tired when I make this and I don't have the card in front of me, but it's something to keep an eye out for sure because even if it's not that useful here, just like I said, it's useful for the rank 4s they'll use, the Abyss Dwellers, it's useful for Utopia the Lightning, it's useful for Zodiacs when we get to them, and that video is in the works. There's also Flying Sea, because you want to shut down the Totally Awesome. I know that's a stupid name, so I'm just going to regard it as Treatoad for the next little while. Locking out your opponent from making that Treatoad means that Walking Solemn Judgment will not be hitting the board, and you will not have to deal with it. It's that simple. Abyss Dweller. This takes care of the Mermail side. This isolates their graveyard effects and nullifies them, and it's extremely cheap and easy to acquire if you don't already have it. It should be in your extra deck at all times if you're playing anything that can make rank 4s. Abyss Dwellers is one of those ones you want to consider first for the format if you are going to play any sort of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Next up, Macros Cosmos. Not allowing Mermails to hit the graveyard means that their effects will not activate. You can combine this with something like Dimensional Fissure or Different Dimension Ground, because those are other options. Of course, you can use the side with it, and with that, you just banish out your opponent's graveyard. You could also use Banisher of the Radiance is another one that pretty much falls under the same category here of just banishing out anything that hits the graveyard. I know it's stupid. Floodgates win Yu-Gi-Oh! They pretty much bring some sort of skill and balance to the game to some degree, and they take away skill and balance to some degree. Again, some degree. Not completely, just some degree. But to the point, you're going to easily stop the Mermail side, and stopping the Mermail side means the Frog side is that much easier to deal with, because you only have to really worry about the Frog side, meaning those solemn warnings, some solemn strikes, your bottomless trap hole, whatever you have ready to go and combat this deck, you can now use it on the Frog and not have to worry about using it on a Mermail, or, isolating that Mermail. Oh my god, the Infiltree is going to snipe it out or blow it up. My names are confused on them. But pretty much to the point, they want to blow Sudden Face up. They want to send Sudden to the graveyard to target a set card. Macros Cosmos, D-Fisher, Banisher the Radiance, take them out of the graveyard. Don't even allow them to utilize that. Taking that whole graveyard thing, they don't have a way to put it back into the deck. Yes, they have the new pot card, but that is something that they would have to run extra. And it doesn't mesh as well here as it does with something like ABC. So keep that in mind. What I want to mention next is something that isolates, of course, the Totally Awesome, which is Winter Reaper Cherries. Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries. Getting the name screwed up. To the point, if you have the Totally Awesome in your side deck, you can swap out one spot and use the Winter Cherries to snipe it out. Keep in mind, it's more favorable in this matchup than it is in ABCs now, because of the simple fact, if you look to the ARG that happened, the ARG tournament this weekend, that totally showed, no pun intended, that totally showed the new pot card being used in ABCs. There was a lot of players throwing it around because they were fearing the Winter Cherries. They were adapting. But Mermails would have a harder time because they don't have the power that ABC does to that degree. So you have a much easier time with that investment in those Winter Cherries, using it here to hit the Totally Awesome or the Treatoad, however you want to phrase that, and just completely get it out of the game. You never have to worry about it again. While we're on the subject of graveyards, if your deck can make Dark Law with Mass Change II, or of course with Mass Change, then I would recommend utilizing that factor in this meta, because not only does it hurt ABCs, it hurts, of course, this deck right here. Stop the graveyard. Vening's Emptiness is also something you can utilize, but if they get something off your board, you're going to have a hard time dealing with it. So combine it with something like Macros Cosmos. Again, focus on that graveyard. It's your best thing. While we're talking about the graveyard as well, Soul Drain is another option. Graveyard effects cannot be activated, meaning all the Mermail effects pretty much fizzle. It's another floodgate card, because I know Macro and D-Fisher are limited, so I got to give you more options than just that. There is Swift Scarecrow for the Mermail side if you really want to stall out the game, so you can get into something like Raigeki, blow up the board, or the Kaiju and the Raigeki combo wombo, or the Kaiju and Dark Hole combo wombo that we recently talked about. That is something you can do as well, stalling out. It's not bad. It actually works. Don't combine it with Macros Cosmos, though, because it's going to have a negative side effect for you. In that case, use Battle Fader, because you'll get the same effect of protecting yourself without having to worry about it hitting the graveyard, because it protects you. That's something to keep in mind. Now, if your deck can utilize Fairy Tale Snow, and I know that's a very popular card within Lightsworn, and of course anything that can spam Omega, you can disrupt your opponent's Totally Awesome plays, no pun intended, by banishing out 7 from your grave or hand and bringing this to the board and using that Book of Moon to flip stuff face down. You can also utilize it just to kind of just pick and choose. I have a video package coming up. I have a duel and a deck profile coming up that kind of shows this off, because I played against Mermails. I believe it's one of the Lightsworn variants I have coming up. So that's where this comes from, but it is a actually solid choice. And to expand on the decks that cannot utilize Fairy Tale Snow, Floodgate Trap Hole is another option. If you have that Macros Cosmos or that D-Fissure setup, then you can use this to completely keep them face down. Now you're saying to me, why would I want to keep them face down? Well, think of it this way. Atlantean Prince comes to the board. It is the igniter to the fire. It is the ember to the flame that starts everything going. So if you shut that down immediately and put it face down with a permanent Book of Moon, permanent here, because they won't be able to flip it back up, you lock out a space on their field, because they like to swarm. And at the same time, you also deal with the issue. Now, while we are on the topic of talking about issues, there is also Mind Crush. If your opponent drops 2 from Megalo, you can play Mind Crush, and yes, they still get, I want to pop stuff on the board, but guess what? Here's what happens. they lose out on 3 cards to do so. And that Maglow, they don't get that search. They don't get that 2400 big booty on the board. And that 2400 big booty means no double attacking, which means your life points are now safe. And also, if they're doing the whole Swap Frog, then there's that too. You can Mind Crush it straight from the hand, and it combines nicely with the stuff that we mentioned. Chain Disappearance, target the Prince. Target the Prince, banish out the Prince. Deck is slowed down dramatically now. That is something you can do for the Mermail side. Necro Valley. Pretty much goes without saying. I'm not even going to have to explain this one for the simple fact that it works like Soul Drain. That is the best way to say it. There is deck lockdown if you want to lock your opponent out. Be like, hold on, slow down the game. I don't want to deal with your shit right now, and we'll do it in a little bit. There's also Mistake because the deck searches quite a bit to make all of its combo wombos. Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike, both are great options. Of course, Maxi as well. These are just your standard in-deck options. I'm trying to further out what I'm saying here. Instead of just focusing on your side deck, this is something that you should be focusing on your main deck as well to help you with the matchup, because it is good for that. So mark that down when you're deck building. Do I need Solemn Warning or Solemn Strike? Is it usable this format? Well, if you have a bad Mermail Frog matchup or just Frog in general, hey, Strike and Warning is actually pretty okay because it gets it back into the extra deck and tells it to go fuck off for a little while longer. There's also Debunk. And Debunk works pretty much like Mind Crush. It's one of those really, really techie cards. Now, I'm going to state the obvious. The new dimensional card that comes out of Invasion Vengeance that pretty much got super duper played this weekend. And I know people are hyping because I even hyped it on Tech Tuesday because it is an amazing card. You're not going to get really too much use out of it from this matchup, because Mermails pick apart your field and then the Totally Awesome comes to the board. All you're doing is stalling the Totally Awesome. So if you feel it's worth it, by all means go for it. But I just think, honestly, because of the slots here for this matchup and just the approaching it, you have better options than just using that. Save that for your ABC matchup. Save that for anything that's more heavy on the extra deck, or anything that's a ritual deck is going to get hurt by that dramatically. So thank you guys so much for watching and taking time out of your day. Make sure to send those requests in the comment section below. I always read them, and I will always try my best to respond. Things sometimes get a little hectic, like it's snowing outside right now, and I don't like snow, so. But this video is coming out, and that's what matters. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, you're brand new, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more. And I know that's annoying, but it helps with the YouTube algorithm and getting out there a little bit more, so I can help more Yu-Gi-Oh players out there with their matchups that they're just having issues with. I'm terrible on closing out videos. So sorry, and thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow for coffee time. Till then, bye.